Thanks, Ron, again for having me with this session. So I really appreciate you taking time, and for everyone who is participating and attending this session, I really appreciate you taking time to make it, and hopefully you will get something out of this from a Google Cloud and hybrid cloud, and how we at Google look at hybrid cloud and multi-cloud strategy. So before we jump in, my name is Mahesh Guram. I'm a customer engineer who works in the Google Cloud. So we basically concentrate on the infrastructure. We talk a lot about cloud, on how companies should get into cloud. But one of the buzzwords that has been with the industry recently has been around hybrid cloud and multi-cloud strategies and stuff. So in this presentation, I want to kind of go deep and talk to you about why Google Cloud is important in this regard, and why our investment into the entire hybrid cloud ecosystem, or the way even we think from open source and stuff like that. So just to before we jump into the hybrid cloud and what it is and what are the solutions we have, I wanted to kind of take a step back, right, and look at what is the future prediction from the industry leaders, and also a lot of reports like the Forrester, the Gartners, and a lot of them on how the industry is going to be in the future, and also talk about how we are where we are. So that kind of gives us some context on how the entire cloud ecosystem is evolving. And then I would basically go into what we have at Google to answer into some of those challenges. So again, there are multiple reports out. This is from Gartner, where they talk about by 2025, how 95% of any new digital initiatives are going to be cloud native, right? What basically that means, or what is the point we are trying to emphasize here, is as we are going more into the cloud world, as a lot of companies are embracing cloud and are starting to use cloud in their IT infrastructure, or using as a part of their critical IT strategy, everything new that we are starting to think about is going to be in cloud. That is really, really good, right? Again, if you think about it, from 2021, where it was 40% to 95% within just 4 years, that is a huge jump. Again, now this Gartner report is available out there. If you're really interested to dive deep, please feel free to, right? So that is where we are going to be in 2025, or where the predictions are, right? So now I just wanted to take a step back and look at how did we come to where we are, right? So when people started to talk about cloud, this was maybe about a decade ago, 2012 to 2015 timeframe. People started to talk about cloud more from a virtualized infrastructure, infrastructure as a code, right, where they wanted to write this IaaS and start to build up their entire infrastructure. And there were a lot of reasons that people started to look at cloud, right? Primarily, they had this strong infrastructure which was on-prem, and they wanted to move something into the cloud because they wanted to use that cloud capability, but they were still using a lot of on-prem, right? So the initial thought that people started to do was, the first generation of cloud migrations were, let me try to use cloud where it was more relevant. But again, trying to still have most of my workloads run elsewhere, not in the cloud, right? And also a lot of companies who were digital native, they started to primarily use cloud for some of these reasons. As I said, infrastructure as code, and a lot of emphasis on CI/CD, delivering many changes to customers and seeing their response and whatnot, right? So from there, about a few years ago, we started to go into the second generation here. And that second generation primarily was around how can I use that first generation and start to, kind of do more integration, right? Not just my company, but how do I integrate it multiple other resources? How do I get data from multiple other sources and gain intelligence, right? And that's where we started to think about the cloud more from a high availability standpoint. How can I make sure everything that is in cloud is secure and all of those nice things, right? And also there were a lot of evolution around those migration practices on trying to migrate this monolithic applications that were in the cloud monolithic applications on-prem into the cloud, and trying to having to go into different types of architectures like event-driven architectures, microservices, and whatnot, right? Again, Kubernetes being one of the primary drivers of the entire microservices architecture, again Google being behind that, right? So we started to see that there was a gap in the orchestration of the entire container ecosystem, and we came up with Kubernetes on how to do that, all that orchestration. Again, all of this is open source. And as we evolved into the second generation, which most of the companies are where they are, or some of them even crossed into the future, but as we evolved into this, what customers are trying to look at is they want to use technology where it is best for them, and that not every application can go into cloud, right? There might be 100 different reasons where they might not go into cloud because of cost, because of skills, because of maybe some latency issues that come up, right? So not everything is reliable into the cloud, is going to go into the cloud because of all these issues, right? So keeping what we read in the Gartner report, talking about the 2025 and future, and the journey where we are today as we work with multiple customers on their cloud journeys, something we think the future of software is primarily driven around managed services, right? Managed services, basically what we are talking about is we want the services like software as a service kind of stuff. We want all of the services, the infrastructure behind that being handled by the cloud, right? In our case, Google Cloud, you want to handle all of that. A good example could be like storage, right? For example, if you are storing, you do not want to handle, or you do not want to have that headache of maintaining multiple copies of storage and stuff. We're having a very simple managed service. The same with pretty much any technology out there. That combined with the microservices architecture to containers, we think will be the game changer in the future, right? When I mean containers, it's a pretty broadly way I'm using it here, right? It is not just microservices, function as a service and whatnot, right? Again, that is where we see the industry going towards in general from a software deployment. So given all of these, or where we are seeing where we want to go, we want to introduce to you Anthos, right? Anthos has been our flagship product, where we wanted to not only talk about one cloud, but we wanted to create it with the growing demand for hybrid and multi-cloud solutions for enterprises, right? So it is basically container based, where you basically have a lot of modern applications running in multiple places. The whole idea of us getting Anthos is we want to meet where you are, right? So for example, if you are at an edge location, if you are in a store or a restaurant, and you want to do certain compute and stuff like that, we want to give you that ability to control it at that location, but also give you the capability of running everything and maintaining observability at a central location in Anthos, right? So the idea here is Anthos is basically our solution for hybrid cloud. So wherever you are, we will come you and meet there, right? Whether you're on premises, whether you're on Google Cloud, whether you're on some other clouds like AWS or Azure, or whether you're at edge location, right? So the idea there is to help you modernize your applications, meet you where you are, and give you that ability to scale where you are, right? So I think that is really, really interesting, right? So few things that customers normally do with Anthos, and what are the outcomes? They basically build unique customer facing applications, which again, this might be different reasons. They build it in different technologies, different places, different clouds. Also, it helps you with delivering that one container Kubernetes platform, again, behind the firewalls that you have. And also basically it helps you create new modern applications, and at the same time give you that ability to modernize your existing applications, right? And also again reimagining with that edge location on things like, I have seen customers where they used edge location compute to help revolutionize their retail store operations, help revolutionize their factory floors, and even in stadiums and stuff like that, right? Again, and Anthos sitting on top of it, where you have that visibility into all of this running everywhere in one single location. Sorry. So some of the things that Anthos solves for are, as I talked about, right, modernizing your applications with your infrastructure, right? We are not asking you to change anything. So all we are asking you is we want to meet you where you are and help you get that flexibility and get that benefit of being in the cloud, and at the same time helping you modernize where you are rather than having that application move into the cloud, do that costly lift and shift and modernize, right? Rather than that, do try to migrate, try to modernize where you are. And also at the same time, we also want to give you that scale of having that multi-cluster applications. I have customers who have part of the application running on-prem, part of it is running in Google Cloud, both of them using the same container technology, and both of them, again, behind the scene, Anthos helps them have the same user experience, right? So whenever there is a scaling issue, the scale happens on Google Cloud and stuff like that. And again, you can have multi-cluster applications. All you have to do is join your Anthos, and within few minutes rather, you would get every data about your cluster within your Anthos dashboard. Again, there are a couple of slides where I will show you how the dashboard looks like. And primarily and most important, as people are migrating into microservice architecture, into most of a heavy containerization, one of the things that I have seen a big challenge is around governance and security, right? There is a lot of challenges on how do I make sure everything is right, especially when I have so many different instances, so many different clusters where things are happening, right? So again, Anthos gives you that one place, one dashboard, one central place where you can apply all these policies, and then you can kind of make sure everyone is following that, right? That way, you have this multi-environment complexity, but you have one place where you can govern and have that policies implemented consistently. So again, I'm not going to dive extremely deep into the technical concept, given that we have about 30 minutes for the lecture here, but just to give you a high level, Anthos is made kind of up about few core things, right? It all starts with cluster. Put these on premises. Like if you are on premise, basically you can use vSphere or bare metal servers on Google Cloud or AWS, Azure, anywhere you have, right? Basically, everything is a cluster, and then you have this cluster management. And Anthos is comprised of integrated set of services, right? Again, developed by different IT organizations, whoever it is within the organization. And primarily, you have that cluster container management, right? Where you can have that efficient and reliable way of running your containers and deploying them. Then you have service management, right? This is where you have these managed mesh architectures, mesh offerings where you can manage and secure VMs and containers, right? Again, application development is another thing, right? Where you have a lot of production ready development stacks that you can deploy on GCP. And again, as you can see right there on the blue, right, where you have compliance, security, and operations, where you can have all of these applied for everything within, right? So if you can see, all of those are on the top using, like, for example, you have a policy map, you want a specific policy implemented across all your Kubernetes control plane. You can easily do that just by having that policy enforced, right? And finally, you have developer experience to first party and third party, where they can build, deploy, and run any cloud connected applications anywhere and have that observability from the central location through Anthos. So a few things that we have been working on recently, right? A few things we wanted to, like when you look at Anthos has been about 5 to 6 years old right now. So a few things that we are consistently working on are something around simplicity, making it very simple for users, where you have workloads in or clusters in multiple locations, and you want to get that right. Again, consistency, as I said, is extremely important, and expanding to that edge location where we are going to get to your customer as close as possible, right? Again, some of the use cases I will talk in a bit are around personalization and stuff like that, which I think is going to be extremely important, as customers are expecting that as a natural form as we go. So this again, very simple UI, right? As you can see right there on the command line. If you have multiple clusters anywhere, all you have to do is you can just say gcloud container cluster create that would do that on Google Cloud. But similarly, wherever you are on premises, you could use VM or bare metal or any other cloud, right? So it's as simple as that. It is very simple command lines where you can, create clusters in any environment where you have. And we have been investing in this even before this entire multi-cloud was a thing, right? And hybrid cloud. So our goal was to help our customers to help with their app modernization and technology modernization. And as part of that, we came up with this Anthos concept where we wanted to meet where you are. So again, the whole idea, as I said, everything, the core of entire Anthos is clusters. Again, these clusters can be anywhere. And once you create these clusters, all you have to do is connect them to your Anthos on Google Cloud, and within minutes you're going to get a lot more insights. Again, it could be in any cloud, right? As you can see, you have IBM, Alibaba. We don't really, as long as it's the cluster, all we need is a connection into Anthos. And through your workstations as well, you can use a lot of command line utilities, or you can use UI as well to kind of have that UI feel. Or if you're someone who likes programming and stuff, you can use the CLIs. And finally, I think all of this comes down into this one view that you will see, right? As you can see, there are 3 different clusters in 3 different locations. So you can see the GKE towards the bottom, which is on the Google Cloud, whereas the other ones are at different locations, right? On different clouds. So you can have the single pane of glass view. Wherever you have different clusters running, all you have to do is connect this, and through this one single view, you will be able to get that insight on how much it is, where is it running, how much memory is it using, and a lot more metadata that you want, right? So all that metadata again is pulled in and stored in this one location. And from this one location, again, if you want to apply a policy into all of these 3 clusters, I can do that very easily through this one. The next one I wanted to talk about was consistency at scale, right? So as you are growing and you have multiple clusters, multiple environments, we want to give you that ability to manage all these fleets of clusters very, very easily, right? So the first thing that we wanted to give to you was ability to view all these different clusters and also collect some of the metrics as I talked about, right? So in this way, like as you can see towards left side of the screen, where you see the CPU utilization of different clusters, and that kind of gives you some real good insights into what's going on there. And then you also can have system logs and specific metrics that you want. You can again track them. Then again, giving you ability not only to connect to Google specific clusters, but anywhere, like any of the clusters that you're monitoring here, which are connected to Anthos, you would be easily having that ability to connect to that. And again, connect to any cluster directly without any problem. I think that is amazing, because again, think about it like having multiple clusters, multiple places running, right? So stuff like that. And as I have been talking about, easy to maintain at each cluster level, what are the things that you want. Again, there are hundreds of different policies that you can implement, thousands, or like we have a lot of features in Anthos, right? Again, we are giving you that ability to pick and choose for which cluster what do you want to enable, what do you do not want to enable, right? Again, this could be extremely important for things like where you have sensitive workloads running. You might want to have only few things that are enabled versus something in development or a sandbox environment where you have a lot more flexibility. Again, if you are using Terraform, we do support Terraform as well. So if you are using Terraform, again, it's pretty easy for you to integrate with Anthos there. Again, this is kind of a bigger dashboard, right? Again, those were the bits and pieces, but as you can see, this is one single dashboard where you can get insights into a lot more clusters of what is going on. Like in this case, we are monitoring 18 clusters across, I believe. A couple of them are on-prem, few of them were in other clouds, and few of them are in Google as well, right? Again, having that entire visibility in this single pane of glass, I think is extremely useful, not only from a maintenance perspective or that insight perspective, but also from security, but also from governance and all of that, right? So having all of that is extremely useful. And the compliance, again, we talked a lot about policies, right? So how does that pan into okay, now you are saying like, I have these policies, I apply the policies, what happens after that, right? Again, this is kind of the compliance and governance report that you can get out of it, saying, hey, these are all the deviations that you have. For example, if you're using PCI DSS, right, you could say that of your all clusters, these are these were not complied to, and these are your violations, and also kind of in some cases give you that remedy actions for some of these, right? Again, I think this is extremely important, especially from a security standpoint, governance standpoint, risk analysis and whatnot, right? So that way, even before anything happens, you are ready with your observations, you have your mitigation plans, you know what is going on in the clusters, you know how to handle them, right? And have a plan ready. So again, this insight, I think, is extremely important. And I have not seen something like this in a one consolidated fashion across clouds at any other location, right? So again, I think this is extremely important, and that insights are really good. And again, how many violations I have and having that action plan, ability to track all of that, I think is really critical. And finally, as we go into the end, I wanted to talk to you about the edge and the things that we have been doing, right? So edge has been always a challenge in the entire industry, right? Few things that are always challenging with edge pain points is, again, these are the things that like, as I said, retail stores, the restaurants, the factory floors. Anything that you want to implement there actually has a pretty long deployment cycle, because a lot of constraints that are around that, and a lot of limited visibility, multiple ways in which things can fail, right? It could be hardware, it could be deployment, it could be uptime and whatnot. And the other thing is, when you look at these different locations, edge locations, there is so much heterogeneous technology that is bought in, right? So having the ability to consolidate is always a challenge. And when you're thinking about implementations, it is this heterogeneous technology is always a challenge. So we at part of Anthos, we have GDC, right? Basically, it's Google distribution. So we want to meet where you are at these edge locations, right? Where we want to give you that ability to have that secure deployment, where you have that one observability that I was talking about before, and also help you with having resilient architecture at the retail level, right? At your edge location, I think is going to be extremely important. And also trying to see if we can leverage existing partnerships with some of these, and also having the ability to deploy these containers, deploy these or integrate with the Anthos technology that we were talking about, so that we have, again, giving you that single pane of glass here, right? So the Google distributed cloud is kind of where we wanted to kind of not only take it where it is stopping at your data centers, but also even take it to that edge locations, right? So the whole idea here is that Anthos, we want to meet where you are. We want to give you that flexibility into where you want to be. We want to help you modernize your applications, right? So whether it's at the edge, whether it's using some virtual cloud, virtual like VMware or anything like that, or even if it is in some air-gapped scenarios, like if you're, for example, running a very specific government agency or some kind of research or something like that, you want to be in that air-gapped scenario. Again, Google has solutions in which Anthos can come in and help you there as well in those air-gapped scenarios too. But the whole idea is we have this entire software layer of Anthos to meet where you are, irrespective of whatever hardware you have, right? Again, coming to the close of, I think this is my final slide here, but the whole idea with Anthos is it is a hybrid and multi-cloud solution for not only enterprise customers. It primarily helps a lot of enterprise scenarios, but even for non-enterprise scenarios where you want to use multiple clouds for different reasons, or you have your partners in multiple clouds, Anthos is our cloud-centric platform, which is driven by containers to run modern applications anywhere, everywhere, consistently at scale. So that's a wrap on my side. So I think if anyone has any questions, I can take them. If not, I will hand it back to you, Ron.
No worries. So my question is really, when we do things with the government, even when we use commercial cloud-based infrastructure, most of the time we try to achieve or do it on a system that meets the FedRAMP security requirements.
Right.
I'm just wondering, though, if we lay this layer of Anthos on top of perhaps an AWS instantiation, does it compromise in any way the FedRAMP status of what my system now is, or does Anthos open it up to something that's not FedRAMP?
From an Anthos standpoint, it actually depends on what are all the tools or what are all the regions that you're trying to connect to, right? The only thing that I want to think about before exactly answering that question specifically with the other clouds is how does the data flow, right? So that is the only thing that we want to think about. But as long as you're not using public internet and you have all the encryptions and stuff, I don't see any problem. Again, what I'm trying to say is we can implement FedRAMP from an Anthos standpoint across multiple regions, but there is a specific implementation way for us to do that. And specifically with government organizations, we have specific government regions where we launch our workloads, right? So those are some of the things that go around that. I would like to, kind of dive deep into that and help you understand where you are and try to help to make sure you get that whatever information you need. But